What's up? It's Elijah Campbell from 107.5 The Game and the post-game show with Jay Phillips here right outside Bridgestone Arena. Just got back to my car, a little chilly this afternoon, after Florida clinched an SEC championship with a win over Tennessee. Just some quick thoughts and some final thoughts here from Nashville, as Florida is the SEC champs. Tennessee gave them a push, and I thought played kind of well. And pretty well, I would say. Just not good enough to beat a team like that. Missed too many shots, too many free throws. But the biggest takeaway has to be that this Florida Gator team is the best team in college basketball. Auburn was all season long, but they've lost 3 of 4 going into the NCAA tournament. They're not playing their best ball right now. Florida's that team that is perfectly encapsulating the playing your best ball at the right time type moment. They've not had a losing streak in conference play all year. That was a stat that was mind-blowing. I didn't realize until Dennis Gates mentioned it in the press conference a couple days ago whenever Florida beat Missouri in the quarterfinal. He mentioned they're the one team in the SEC play that has not had a losing streak. Not one. They do not follow up losses with losses because they rarely lose. But Florida did something today that proved that they might be the safest pick to win the national championship, as opposed to Auburn. Because going into the game, or last night even, when Todd Golden was asked about the matchup with Tennessee, he mentioned that the 2 games they played were anomalies. Like then when they beat Tennessee by 30 in early January, he said that Tennessee just shot very poorly. His team played really well, but Tennessee's not going to shoot that poorly again. And then when they played in early February without Zakai Ziegler and Igor Milicic, Tennessee beat them by 20 and held them to 44 points. Really, the Gamecocks are the only team besides Tennessee in that game to hold Florida to less than 71 points in a game. It rarely happens. But tonight, going into that game, Golden said that whoever dictates the tempo is going to be the champion of the SEC. And I thought about that because it makes sense. Tennessee plays a slow offense. They love to play in the half court. That's their moneymaker. It's their bread and butter, is half court sets, running off ball action, getting as clean a look as possible. And then defensively, Tennessee is so good with their ball pressure that it makes you run long possessions. So Tennessee's tempo is very, very, very slow, even like on a national scale. And Florida plays very fast. Florida is probably the best fast break team in college basketball. They get out in the break so quickly, and they're so good at turning missed shots into points and even your made shots into points by making sure they just beat you down the floor. And Todd Golden said, whoever dictates the tempo is going to win. Tennessee actually dictated the tempo. It was a slower, lower possession game. Tennessee made Florida play a lot in the half court, and Florida just played well in the half court. That's the crazy thing, is that this was still a low-scoring half-court game. Not low-scoring game, because both teams, I think, were really efficient. But it was a slower half-court game, but Florida was so efficient, they still found a way to score 80-plus and win the game. Tennessee, even on offense, I thought played well for the most part. Went through a stretch in the first half where I thought they weren't getting enough pressure on the rim to create extra open shots. They didn't challenge Florida in the paint the way I think they should have for about the first 10 minutes of that game. Hoisted a lot of threes, which they can win doing sometimes, but in the games in which they've lost, they relied on that way too much. But hats off to Florida. That team, even in a game in which the other team dictated the tempo, they still won. They're a chameleon. This is a chameleon basketball team. They can win playing fast. They can win playing slow. They can win in a variety of ways. And Walter Clayton, I thought, he was my vote for SEC Tournament MVP, and rightfully so. And he won the MVP. I think he had 22 today. He hit 4 threes. And anytime it seemed like Tennessee cut the double-digit lead that Florida had for most of the second half, would cut it to about 5 or 4. And that very pro-Tennessee crowd gets on their feet, gets loud. When you think Tennessee might be coming back into this game and that the juice in the building was leaning their direction, Walter Clayton found a way to hit a 3 or get a bucket. I mean, he was the ultimate Tennessee Vol vibe killer in this game, and that's just the type of player he is. Tough shot maker. He's a guy who gets everybody involved. He runs that offense very fluidly. That's why I voted him as an All-American this year as well. He's the best player on currently the best team in America at this given moment. Walter Clayton's the real deal. I also gave votes to Will Richard and Thomas Houck. Thomas Houck had another really good game as he comes off the bench, gets in double figures in scoring, hits a big 3, and defensively is versatile enough to handle a lot of the off-ball action Tennessee has. And Will Richard, just another great offensive performance. The guy was scoring I believe he had at least 12 points in every single one of these games in this run in Nashville. Elite shooter, lights out shooter, and hit a couple of big threes early in the second half to kind of keep Tennessee at bay. Tennessee, of course, did make runs. Zakai Ziegler had 20 plus, and he had another fantastic day. I voted him on the All-SEC tournament team as well. And Jordan Gainey, man, as soon as you think Florida had it won, he goes on a personal 6-0 run and cuts that lead to 5. He ends up scoring 22. He had a phenomenal week. The last 2 games against Auburn and Florida, even in the losing effort, Jordan Gainey proved that he is just as important to this offense as someone like Chaz Lanier, who is the SEC Newcomer of the Year. Tennessee again, offensively, some mistakes, for the most part, played really well. And Jordan Gainey, if he's able to give you that off the bench consistently, like he's done at times this year, don't forget, he's had a buzzer beater to win at Illinois back in non-conference play. And he's had a couple of high-scoring outputs, but if you're getting the Jordan Gainey that you got in the last 2 days, if you're Tennessee, you're in really good shape. But they just didn't have enough. The same way Tennessee won the game against Auburn yesterday by making their free throws, they lost it by missing them. They got 30 free throws and missed way too many crucial ones at way too many crucial junctures of the game. And as good of a job they did to get to the line, they just didn't take advantage with their trips at the line, and it ultimately cost them a chance, maybe not to win the game, but of keeping it close. Final thought on the game itself: Florida also offensive rebounding won the game. Like Alex Condon, Micah Handlogden, Ruben Chinyelu, that big 3 right there. Thomas Houck as well did a fantastic job on the offensive glass. And Tennessee, on a couple possessions when it was a close game, would get the initial stop, but couldn't corral the rebound. And Florida just had way too many offensive rebounds and second chance points in the second half to really allow Tennessee back into the game. And that's kind of how Florida slammed the door shut. So Florida's going to be a 1 seed. Auburn still may be the number 1 overall seed. I still feel like that happens. So the SEC is going to get 2 1 seeds with Auburn and Florida, and then Tennessee and Alabama securely 2 seeds. I think the SEC gets 13 teams in. Texas will be the odd man out. We'll see what happens with South Carolina and the NIT. But all that to get to at another time. I want to first, before signing off here, thank the sponsors who allowed me to be here, Columbia Craft and Peak Drift Brewing Company. Those 2 premier companies have combined together to be producing award-winning beer in the state of South Carolina. And I'm already thinking right now about how hard that first Columbia Craft Famously Hop IPA is going to hit when I sit back on my couch at home and get to soak it in. So thanks to Columbia Craft and Peak Drift, 2 of the best craft beer companies, not just in the state of South Carolina, but in the United States of America. So thanks for hanging around my coverage this week. It's been an absolute blast covering this event. Every year rules. I'm very fortunate to get to do it and to be able to relay my thoughts, empty out my notebook to you guys. I'll see you back in Columbia. Peace.